Have you ever wondered what might be hidden behind the closed doors of the Vatican, a place where centuries of history, faith, and untold mysteries coexist, a place that some believe? If you were to uncover the truths buried within, you would never look at the world the same way again. Today, we are going to explore strange stories, controversial conspiracy theories, and artifacts believed to have the power to transform humanity's understanding of faith itself. From ancient relics and mystical records to theories about intelligence beyond this earth, everything is waiting for you in this journey. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss a single moment of today's video. And make sure you watch until the very end, because sometimes the truth is hidden in the final moments few people have the patience to discover. I invite you to join me as we begin this journey into the heart of the Vatican's secrets. Few can imagine that right beneath the Vatican, the sacred center of Catholic power, lies a colossal secret archive containing documents that could completely reshape how humanity perceives history, faith, and itself. Officially called the Vatican Apostolic Archive. For centuries, it has been known by a more evocative name, the Vatican Secret Archive. Behind cold stone walls and seemingly endless corridors, there are more than 50 miles of shelving, holding millions of documents, letters, decrees, and ancient manuscripts. A significant portion of these have never been made public. It is believed these records preserve everything from correspondence between popes and European emperors, to the trial transcripts of Galileo, to yellowed pages detailing stories of UFOs and supernatural phenomena that the Church once quietly recorded. Some documents are rumored to even contain ancient magical rituals, including formulas for summoning unseen entities, archaic Latin invocations, and passages advising how to communicate with angels and demons. This is not the kind of material the Church once widely disclosed, as it could shake the image of a faith tradition that claims to be pure and untainted by superstition. It doesn't end there. Suppressed biblical texts, known as the Apocrypha, are also believed to lie hidden somewhere in these archives. Many of these books were once considered divine revelation, like the Apocalypse of Peter and the Gospel of Thomas, but were removed from the official Bible. To this day, scholars still debate, was it because their content didn't fit doctrine, or because they held details the Church wanted to bury? Although the Vatican has stated that some documents are gradually being opened to scholars, the vetting process is extremely strict, and the public will almost certainly never set foot inside. That secrecy has sparked countless theories that behind those locked doors lie stories powerful enough to rewrite world history itself. And to this day, the Vatican Secret Archive remains one of the most enigmatic treasures in human history. If you thought the Vatican's mysteries stopped at theology and relics, you might be surprised to learn that aliens and UFOs are also part of the legends many believe the Church has safeguarded for nearly a century. The story begins with an old rumor rooted in intelligence files declassified after World War II. According to these accounts, in the late 1930s, a disc-shaped flying object allegedly crashed near the town of Magenta in northern Italy, when the country was under Benito Mussolini's rule. Some witnesses claimed that immediately after the crash, fascist forces secured the site, blocked all information, and transported the wreckage to a secret facility. But the most shocking allegation was that the Vatican intervened directly. According to testimony from former U.S. intelligence officer David Grush, Pope Pius XII discreetly informed the American government, paving the way for a covert operation to transport alien technology to the United States. Although no official documents have ever confirmed this, Grush's statements and partially declassified files have turned the story into one of the most controversial conspiracies of the 20th century. While the 1930 UFO incident remains a shadowy corner of history, believers point out that this was not the only event allegedly linking the Vatican to unexplained phenomena. Over 70 years later. In June 2007, a group of tourists and photographers in St. Peter's Square witnessed a glowing silver-orange orb hovering over the Basilica dome. It was described as floating silently for a long moment before vanishing without warning in front of hundreds of stunned onlookers. In the following days, a few photos surfaced on small news sites and forums, only to quickly disappear without a trace. The Vatican issued no official statement. That absolute assurance only fueled suspicion. Was it an intentional contact, or simply a natural event exaggerated by rumor, shifting from modern events into the deeper currents of history? Many researchers believe that ancient documents hidden in the Vatican archives contain records of beings from the heavens. Some medieval manuscripts speak of wise experts who came from the stars, entities said to have taught humans the skills of agriculture, architecture, and writing. While most mainstream scholars dismiss these accounts as mythological imagery, there are those who suggest they might be faint cultural memories of ancient contact with extraterrestrial visitors. It is precisely this intersection of legend, faith, and the possibility of intelligence beyond Earth that makes these stories among the most captivating mysteries. Because if even a small part of those records were true, all of humanity's understanding of its place in the universe would have to be rewritten from the ground up. And within the heart of the Vatican, where power and faith intertwine, that question still remains, silently awaiting an answer. When people think of the Vatican, they often imagine solemn ceremonies, magnificent basilicas, and a faith preserved across the centuries. Yet behind those imposing walls, there are stories tinged with a darker hue, episodes the Church has long tried to keep silent, but which have crept into history like stains that cannot be easily erased. One of the most shocking events was the sudden death of Pope John Paul I, a pontiff who reigned for only 33 days. He was known as a gentle, humble man, expected to usher in a spirit of reform. But on the morning of September 29th, 1978, he was found dead in bed, still clutching a few sheets of handwritten notes. The Vatican announced the cause as a heart attack. However, contradictions in official reports, the refusal to conduct an autopsy, and the tight control of information all sparked suspicion. Had he discovered too much of what was never meant to be known? Many researchers believe that, only days before his death, John Paul had begun questioning the murky financial dealings inside the Vatican Bank, an institution where political and economic power converged in ways more dangerous than anyone dared admit. From that sudden death, the story branches into another equally dark, the money laundering and corruption scandal at the Vatican Bank IOR. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, the bank was accused of channeling funds into covert operations and financing clandestine networks across Italy, even playing a role in the collapse of Banco Ambrosiano, a financial disaster that vaporized billions of dollars. The names of key figures, like Chairman Roberto Calvi, found hanged beneath a London bridge, and Bishop Paul Marcinkus, who once led the IOR, remain forever entwined with an air of suspicion. While the Vatican has always denied official wrongdoing, the fallout left a profound public loss of trust in the transparency of its power structures. Yet it was not only money and politics that fueled controversy. One of the most quietly corrosive scandals was the question of homosexuality within the clergy, which author Frederick Martel exposed in his book In the Closet of the Vatican. Drawing on hundreds of interviews, he claimed that many of the most powerful figures in the Roman Curia led double lives, publicly condemning the LGBT community while privately maintaining same-sex relationships. This hypocrisy not only revealed an unsettling contradiction, but raised a deeper question. Have the strict moral standards the Church has preached for centuries ever truly been upheld by those at the very top? Moving beyond these turbulent scandals, it becomes clear that the Vatican is not simply a fortress of immutable faith. It is also a mirror reflecting the ambitions, fears, and all too human darkness of those who hold power. And it is precisely this convergence of the sacred and the worldly that has made the history of this place both magnificent and tragic in equal measure. Among the countless questions surrounding Vatican secrets, few things provoke more fascination than the discovery that its most sacred religious symbols bear traces of the very pagan cultures the Church once denounced as heretical. Their presence is not just decorative. It raises a more unsettling question. Has the faith we know been woven from the same rituals it once rejected? One of the most controversial examples is the mitre, the ceremonial hat worn by popes and Catholic bishops. Its shape, with a tall split crest, bears an uncanny resemblance to the headgear worn by ancient Babylonian priests as they worshipped Dagon, the fish god. In surviving reliefs, Dagon is depicted as a half-man, half-fish figure, wearing a headdress shaped like a fish's open mouth, with the tail draped down his back. For the Babylonians and Philistines, Dagon represented fertility and earthly prosperity, a symbol of worldly power that the Bible had fiercely condemned. While the Church insists that the mitre developed independently, the similarity remains a subject of uneasy fascination among scholars of religious symbolism. But the mitre is only the surface of a much deeper cultural layering. Standing right within the Vatican itself, in the Cortile della Pigna, rises a giant bronze pine cone over 4 meters tall. Few realize this was once an artifact from a temple dedicated to Isis, the ancient Egyptian goddess. Across many civilizations, the pine cone represented the pineal gland, the third eye in the human brain, thought to connect us with the spiritual realm. Assyrians, Greeks, and Egyptians all incorporated the pine cone in initiation rituals and symbols of enlightenment. So why does the Vatican, the very heart of Christianity, still honor and display this symbol? Perhaps behind strict dogma flows an unbroken current of esoteric knowledge passed down through the ages. Shifting from symbols to rituals, Easter itself has not escaped this complex cultural blending. For believers, it is the celebration of Christ's resurrection. But long before Christianity arrived, The Germanic and Anglo-Saxon peoples held festivals honoring the spring goddess Eostre, the origin of the English word Easter. The symbols of eggs and rabbits, now playful gifts and decorations, once carried meanings of fertility and the rebirth of nature. As the Church expanded across Europe, it chose not to eradicate these older rites, but to weave them into the new faith, making conversion smoother and more familiar. Those traces the fish-mouth-shaped mitre, the enigmatic pine cone, and the ancient spring festival are not merely side anecdotes. They are proof that faith itself has grown out of the meeting point of many cultures, many intertwined layers of belief. And sometimes, it is precisely within these seemingly familiar symbols that we see most clearly the complex, often contradictory history of humanity's search for the sacred. If the secrets of Vatican finances or pagan symbolism were enough to make it the center of controversy, the supernatural stories and conspiracy theories surrounding this tiny city-state have driven humanity's curiosity even further, to the very boundary where faith and bewilderment blend into each other. One of the most famous tales, blending the color of science fiction with a deep aura of mysticism, is the legend of the Chronovisor time machine. According to Father Pellegrino Ernetti, a Benedictine priest and scholar of ancient music in the 1960s, he participated in a top-secret Vatican project alongside several scientists to create a device capable of viewing through time. The Chronovisor, as he described it, functioned like a screen allowing observers to watch the past as if it were a live broadcast. Ernetti claimed he had personally witnessed the crucifixion of Jesus Christ and even took a photograph as evidence. The photo was later published, but no one was ever able to verify its true origin. Although the Vatican has never acknowledged that such a machine exists, the story of the Chronovisor has circulated for decades, becoming part of the modern Catholic mythology. Shifting from arcane technology to exorcism, few people know that the Vatican once had a chief exorcist, Father Gabriele Amorth, who claimed to have performed over 70,000 exorcisms in his 25 years of service. Father Amorth was convinced that demons were not merely religious metaphors, but real entities infiltrating every corner of the world, even the Vatican itself. He often asserted that it was precisely the devil who tempted people into sin and corrupted the Church from within. For devout believers, Father Amorth's testimony was evidence of a sacred battle against evil. But for skeptics, such colossal numbers only raised unsettling questions. Where is the line between faith and collective delusion? And then, going beyond all these supernatural accounts, there is a historical hypothesis so audacious it borders on unbelievable. The phantom time hypothesis. Proposed in 1991 by German amateur historian Herbert Illig, this theory claims that nearly 300 years of European history from AD 614 to 911 never actually happened, but were fabricated as part of a scheme to create false time and legitimize the reign of Emperor Otto III and Pope Sylvester II. Illig cited discrepancies between the Julian and Gregorian calendars and the lack of consistent archaeological evidence, although most academic historians have rejected this idea outright. It has captured public imagination, for it touches on a deep-seated fear. If the powerful could simply invent centuries of history, how can we be sure anything we know is real? It is these stories, the machine that could see into the past, 70,000 battles with demons, and the possibility that 300 years may never have existed that have made the Vatican a crossroads of faith, power, and mystery. And perhaps it is precisely this mixture that ensures it will always remain a symbol that compels humanity to keep asking questions. Amid the splendor of golden domes and vast squares lit day and night, few realize the Vatican also hides more earthly shadows, places where history, security, and even petty deceit all coexist. Beneath the ground and behind imposing stone walls lie structures that are at once witnesses to catastrophe and symbols of the Church's will to survive its darkest hours. The Passetto di Borgo is one of them, built in the 9th century. This narrow passage, nearly 800 meters long, connects the papal palace within the Vatican to Castel Sant'Angelo, once the mausoleum of Emperor Hadrian. On the outside, the Passetto appears to be nothing more than a thick fortress wall, but within it lies the only escape route that has saved more than one pope's life. History records that in 1527, when Emperor Charles V's troops stormed Rome, looting and massacring, Pope Clement VII fled through the Passetto under cover of darkness, escaping the chaos to hide in the fortress for months. Today, this hidden passage still exists, occasionally opened to visitors as a reminder of the fragility of power, and that even those considered the representatives of God could not escape the fear of death. Emerging from the shadows of the tunnel, the Vatican faces a reality few would expect: the highest crime rate in the world per capita. Statistics show that every year, around 500-600 thefts are reported in this tiny state of barely 800 permanent residents. On paper, that makes the Vatican the most criminal country on earth. But in truth, most of these crimes are not committed by residents at all, but by the millions of tourists who flood in each year. Amid the crowds thronging St. Peter's Square and the Vatican museums, professional pickpockets slip through unnoticed, taking advantage of pilgrims' distraction. The irony is that many thefts occur right beneath the statues of saints, as if to remind us that humanity's small hungers never disappear, even in the most sacred places. But not all deceptions within the Vatican take the form of street crime. Another scandal shook the credibility of the world's largest museum, the case of fake Egyptian mummies. In 2015, during routine CT scanning and inspections, experts discovered that some of the mummies displayed for decades were, in fact, medieval human skeletons wrapped in linen designed to look ancient. One specimen even contained a 19th century iron nail, proving it was a product of Europe's mummy craze, a time when collectors rushed to buy and sell artifacts without verification. The Vatican asserted that it never intended to deceive the public. But the incident left a lingering unease. Even the institution charged with preserving humanity's historical treasures can unwittingly expose fraud. All of these elements, the secret tunnels, pickpockets beneath sacred domes, counterfeit relics, have made the Vatican a place of paradox, at once holy and deeply human. And it is precisely these contradictions that have turned it into a space where history and humanity reveal themselves in all their light and darkness. For many, the Vatican is the ultimate symbol of Catholic faith, a place where sacred light shines through every dome and monument. But when we look deeper into its history, the imposing facade gradually reveals countless untold stories, disputed relics, and secrets that could upend even the oldest certainties. From the Chronovisor time machine and exorcism rituals to the Passetto escape tunnel, financial scandals, or pagan traces hidden within sacred symbols, all of it forms a Vatican that is at once magnificent and shadowed, worthy of reverence and yet impossible not to question. Perhaps it is exactly this layering of the sacred and the worldly that has made it an enduring center of irresistible fascination, a Pandora's box that humanity has never truly opened all the way. And whether you believe these stories are only legends or concealed truths, they still pose a very human question. Is there anything in this world that is truly unchanging, or are all our beliefs just layers waiting to be uncovered? If you feel this journey of discovery has been worthwhile, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to keep exploring with us in the videos to come. Because there are still so many mysteries, so many untold truths, and so many moments that make us wonder, how much do we really know about the world we live in? Thank you for staying with us until the end of this video. See you again on the next journey of exploration.